All right, it is Joe Solecki who's coming off a very impressive submission win. Joe, it's been a couple of days. I'm sure you've had a chance to go back and watch it, review it a little bit. So talk to me how you feel about your performance overall.
Yeah, I haven't really gotten to watch it like myself like that. Like my wife is watching it, my teammates. So I'm catching glimpses here and there. And then I like run out of the room when the post-fight interview comes on. I hate listening to myself. But yeah, the stuff I've caught, there was some good stuff. Some stuff I didn't get to display, of course. There's always things we could have done better and all that. But I don't think I can really complain about, like how it went, especially change of opponent, all that, performance of the night bonus, all great stuff. But there's definitely stuff we can build off of going forward, But again, it's one of those where I really didn't show anything new. So while it's frustrating because you work on all these things, it's more just I get to keep under wraps. So I guess it's also a good thing, So yeah, I cannot complain for sure.
Okay, hold on. We got a lot to talk about there. First things first, though. Hold on. You don't go back and watch the fight like first thing right away. I would imagine, I fight in the UFC. The first thing I do is go back to the hotel room and I want to watch myself looking like a badass in there.
They already were, so it makes me uncomfortable because I'm like, I don't want to stand over their shoulder and be like, oh, let's watch me. It's kind of awkward. But yeah, I mean, just because of them, I ended up watching it 3-4 times. So yeah, and then it is what it is. Now my wife wants to watch the post-fight interview because then they pan to her. So then I'm like, oh, I got to cover my ears. Like I don't want to watch this. But and our coach is obsessed, so he was watching already. Yeah, so I ended up watching it inadvertently. Early on in my career, like when after the Contender Series, I watched the whole episode that night. Like as it goes on and on, like even today's one of my friends is like, you don't sound like you're on top of the world. I was like, I love this, but like I loved Saturday. Saturday's over, like it's just back to work. Like there's no better feeling than being in the cage, in the moment, in the fight. And then it ends, and I'm not like a big fanfare guy. So it's like one of those things where I like now is like maybe younger, I'd like watch on Instagram and like repost everything and like was almost admiring people's admiration. And now it's more so appreciating people that are taking their time. Like I feel like it's like I guess I've grown up, where you're like, oh, like I actually really appreciate this person said that instead of being like, look how awesome I am. It's just my job. I love it and it's my passion. But I actually went back and watched all the other fights instead because that was a good card. It ended up being.
That's amazing. It was an entertaining card. You said something else I thought was interesting too, right? You're like, hey, you kind of frustrated because you didn't get to show anything new. That's such an interesting thing about this sport, right? Because you want to develop, you want to show new wrinkles, but also it's a cage fight. And if you got some bread and butter that gets it done, it's best to get in there and get it done and get out of there with a win. So how do you strike that balance between like, I want to show these new wrinkles versus I got some go-to moves that work out really, really well. So I should probably just go do that.
Yeah, I mean, like I said, it's my job. My job is to go out there and win. I got a performance of the night. Like that's first and foremost. Once you hit the UFC, you're there to be a prize fighter. So there's zero complaints. And here's the thing: is if I went my entire career taking people down and grappling them or submitting them, but for the last 10 years I've been working on my striking and stand-up. I'm also, I very much so plan on being a coach when I'm done. So I've still built the skill set to go on and pay it forward. So it's all money in the bank for later regardless. But, you get those new skills, you want to show them. But I think there's been a lot of people that reached out that watch for like intricacies and were saying different things about like, oh, your footwork looked better or that quick left hook. And you're like, oh, like, thank you for picking up on that. Like we worked on those things. So it's all good. It really doesn't matter. Bottom line is climbing the rankings, making a good living. And I live to fight another day. That was the last fight, or that was the one before the last fight of my contract. So it kind of relieves that of like the having to fight out your contract, any of that nonsense, stuff that people don't think about when they're watching, so it's all good stuff. I can't complain about not getting to, show more hands or kicks or whatever. So I'm not complaining.
So you touched on it, right? You had a change of opponent, you had a change of a date. I mean, all that, a lot of switches, but you keep referring to it. It's just like, hey, this is my job. So, I think about like how that can emotionally impact you or how it can physically impact you. But I don't know, the way you mentally approach it, did any of that stuff bother you at all? Or is it just like you said, it's my job, so whatever, I just take whatever happens?
Yeah, it wasn't bothering me. We lost the Saint Denis fight. I think it was like 12 or 13 days out from when we would have left for fight week. And it was just keep on keeping on. We kept training, and the only thing for me is I did, 95% of my camp away from home. So you want to make sure that you're getting a fight at the end of it. But then as it got closer, I went home from the last day at camp, didn't hear anything. Monday came around. And that was the only time it really played with my head where I was like, this is ridiculous. Like, this is the highest level. What's the advantage of fighting at the highest level if we're not going to have a little professionalism, you know? That's not a knock on the UFC. It's just one of those things being like, I put a lot of money, time, effort, sacrifice into the camp, and now I know nothing. And it wasn't until like 9:15, you know, I'm on the East Coast. I know the office is out there at West, but where I even heard a potential name and it ended up being Carl's. And I was like, man, like I'm not getting on a plane tomorrow if it's just going to have to turn back around to come back and get in camp and jet lag, all that crap. I'm like, that's when I was like, can we just do this next week? Because at least I don't care about the opponent or anything. At least I don't have 10 adrenaline dumps on Monday every time my phone buzzes of looking for, you know, I'm not getting on the plane without a contract. And I know I'm not in a position to strong arm the UFC, but I just kind of said to my manager, you know, Jason House, and then he's like, I'll talk to Sean. And then he got back to me. My bags were packed at that point. It was like midnight. I'm getting ready to go to bed. We have a flight in like 10 hours. And he texted back and was like, February 25th. And I was like, holy cow. All right. So just extended the camp and went on. But that was the only time it got emotional where it was like, this is crazy. Like, this is taking the fun out of it because I don't even know if I get to fight at the end of this nonsense. And I'm definitely not going to get paid if I don't get fight because I'm not a main event or an alternate or something where like, because people would say that if you go out there and weigh in, will you get paid? You're like, no, this is a prelim fight. And it's not COVID era where like you didn't know beforehand that your opponent fell out. So, you know, just the logistic stuff, you know, you start to get a little agitated at the end, but it was all for, you know, it all worked out, you know, and with me and my faith, I really believe that was God's plan for my life, you know, so I'm in no position to complain or whine about it. That was the only day where it was a little stressful. And then the next day it was like, all right, let's get back in camp. Let's go.
That's awesome, man. Way to lay it out there. Well, you go out there, you as you said, you end up fighting Carl Deaton, kind of an unknown, but dude was tough as hell, man. I mean, were you expecting that? Like, did you know what you were facing going in there, or was it just kind of a wild card? Like, I mean, a great performance from you, but I had to respect his durability as well.
For sure. I don't think he's ever been finished. We knew that. It was one of those where you're like, all right, like this is going to be one of those annoying guys that even if I am better, like I think I will be, like he's not going away. Okay, we're going to be in this for 15 minutes, you know. I try not to look at, you know, in the past, just out of curiosity, that stuff doesn't affect me. I'll look at the odds, just, you know, I looked at nothing. I'm like, I don't even want to think about the fact that it's his first fight in the UFC, even though he has more experience than me, and just a bunch of nonsense, you know. But we knew how durable he was. I watched him in his PFL fight, and that guy that he fought was like kind of a blue chip prospect, and he arguably, you know, won that fight. So just a lot of stuff going in where you're like reading on his background. He's well-rounded, wrestled growing up. And then you're like, all right, I wrestled growing up. It has pro boxing fights. Like this is going to be a tough out. So I just prepare for everybody. Like they're the toughest. I mean, growing up, I lost so much in jiu-jitsu and stuff that like I jokingly, but also kind of seriously, I'm like, dude, you could put a 10-year-old kid across the cage and I'd find a way to be like, well, I saw him warming up and he looked pretty fast and sharp. Like I know better now than to expect anything to go easily because fighting is nuts. So, yeah, but he definitely, you know, I knew he was going to be like that, but maybe other people didn't think that because they saw like, you know, debut or something.
Yeah, no doubt. I thought the odds were crazy, man. But you know, you went out there and proved that you were deserving of that. So you mentioned your wife being there. You got a surprise visit from the family, right? I guess how much did that mean to you? And it was funny because earlier you talked about the difficulty of being away from home for as long as you were. So I guess how special was it to have a surprise visit? How cool was that?
Yeah, that was spectacular. You know, we were in the middle of the weight cut, and it wasn't a bad weight cut. I've never had a bad weight cut. It was long. It was just tedious. Like it just wasn't coming off fast. I never got like sick or anything that would affect performance, but it was just one of those. It took a long time, and that was the first time cutting all of it the night before. And I mean, we were planning on getting a little off and going to bed. I'm like, guys, honestly, the way it's not coming, and we didn't have a chair in our sauna bag from the UFC. It was a mess. So they had bought up a different chair from the hotel, and then there was another knock at the door. My buddy, my corner, who they all knew, and I didn't know. And they're like, "Who could this be?" And I'm like, "Huh?" And I look up. I'm like, "What are you doing here?" So, and man, like I really didn't realize until that moment, like I needed that, you know, because we went through all the quarantine fights and she couldn't come, and I was like, well, you know, I prefer her to be here, but I'm fine. And then this was the one that I think maybe just the being away from home and stuff would have been the breaking point if she wasn't there. So, man, what a blessing that was. And then, you know, she didn't think she was coming to the fight or anything. And it's funny because I had requested tickets for the original fight. And on Thursday, after we knew we probably weren't fighting, I got the confirmation. And I'm like, well, my wife's not coming now. But my coach, who I stay with all camp, Jeff Jimmo, his father-in-law, his wife's dad, was fighting in a boxing match. He's 70 years old in Vegas the following weekend. So they were all going. Yeah, it was like some Masters Open. And so his wife was like, hey, like, we're going to be out there. We would still take the tickets. I'm like, awesome. I requested 3 for that weekend. Never heard back. So I'm like, oh, it must be a busier card. So I had to find the lady at weigh-ins and was like, hey, like they can't come because actually the boxing match is at the same time. But my wife's here. She's surprised. Is there any way? And she was like, oh my gosh, yeah, you're in. So she ended up getting to come to the fight, and that's why on the walkout, like I'm always like real stoic, real serious. And like, I heard her go absolutely nuts and I just kind of smiled and was like, man, like we're back to, if like I was back at CFFC, where like I'd only sell 10 tickets and I could hear the only one person in the crowd was her losing her mind like for 100. So it was just kind of like I got like almost instant chills. It was awesome. And then the other thing is she's our daughter was at home, but she was pregnant with our son. So he's kind of there too. And that was like the last person I kissed goodbye. I kissed her goodbye and I kissed her belly goodbye. And she's got a big old bump there. And I was like, dang, like it kind of sunk in. Like this is the first one, with the son too. So it was just cool. The whole thing was cool.
That's awesome, man. It's so great that worked out. All right, well, let's talk about it. I mean, now you're back home. I guess the focus is on promoting your grappling event right now. Are you back training? Like, what's going on?
Yeah, dude, that night, because I couldn't sleep, the adrenaline. So I'm answering emails and stuff. I'm like, it was supposed to be a month after my fight. Now it's 3 weeks. We got to crack down. If people think running MMA events or MMA guys are kind of divas, dealing with jiu-jitsu guys can be very, very difficult. Like they back out or, oh, this guy, I read he's 5 pounds heavy. You're like, oh my gosh. So I was like putting out fires all week. And then right afterward, emailing, my registration had a problem with some of the parents were emailing me. It was so funny. I'm answering and they're going back and being like, oh, can you please tell Joe congrats? I wanted to be like, I'm a one-man show. It's all me. So, it was, but yeah, that's it. Promoting the grappling. I got it. My teammate, actually, I'm wearing a shirt. Tom Lane from Jim O is fighting at Ring Combat this weekend. It'll be his 3rd pro fight. So I'm going to go up and corner him up in Jersey, which means I'll get to see my old coach, John Hassett, train up there. So it's just back to the grind. This is what I love to do. So it's really not stressful or annoying. I'm home, got to come home and hang out with my daughter all week and just back to it. But we have All In on the 18th down here in Wilmington, North Carolina. And got a really cool card for that with super fights and stuff, tournament during the day. So it was right back to logistics, getting the t-shirts ordered and the medals and just the whole nine, and that's going to be more of an adrenaline dump than the fight. We're going to run around like chickens without our head and have a jiu-jitsu party. It's a blast. So just trying to run with all of it. It's one of those like strike while the iron's hot, trying to do some seminars and just, this is a short ride. So we're just trying to, squeeze the juice out of all of it, So it's just back to the grind and back to teaching and training last night. So it's just fun. It's just fun to be back.
I love it, man. You definitely embrace the entire lifestyle, man, of being in this, as you said, as your job. So I guess from the fighting side, I mean, you're going to keep yourself busy. You got the family going on. You got the promoting going on. You got the coaching going on. You got a lot going on. But, I mean, fighting is going well as well. So I guess what's the plans? I mean, do you start pushing right away for another fight? Do you just kind of sit back and wait and hear what happens? You got a date on the calendar circled based around the birth that's coming up? I mean, talk to me about, when we see you again.
Yeah, I mean, I'm super healthy. I have a dent in my shin that I couldn't even, like grapple the Saturday before the fight without like screaming. And then I collapsed in the workout room on Tuesday. And I was like, let's test this out and see. Because we knew Carl stood with his foot turned in more like a boxer. I was like, love that calf kick. The last 2 seconds of the camp, the last sparring session, last round, last 2 seconds, I was like, let's put a stamp on this. Threw a calf kick and just hit something, a knee. And so like, I mean, I'm like, I think it feels better. I got my brother's a great PT here in Wilmington, Conquer Movement. He dry needled it. I'm like, it's feeling good. Let's test it out. My buddy threw the lightest kick ever in the warm-up room Tuesday and like collapsed. I'm like, great. So other than that, I'm healthy. I'm good to go. So back training. Yeah. I mean, pushing for a fight never seems to really work out for me. It just doesn't happen. So I think we just wait, but I got a great manager. He was talking about what's, we're going to try to work for next. And, I think we're going to, get something here before the baby's born, hopefully. If not, give me 2 months on the other side of it, just so I can be there for the birth. Just because I have to go away for camp and stuff now. So, either a month before or after, I think I'd be good to go. So, I'm always kind of ready. We're always, 3 weeks out from being peaked. I feel like I train all year long. So, I'm ready to go. I'm excited. And, fighting is my priority. My family and fighting are my priorities. Everything else is fun. And, it's great to have other avenues and all that, but all of that goes away without fighting. Fighting is the main event, main course. So, we always had the focus on that. I'm not ever skipping a session to, go match make for my tournament or something. It's fighting, that's my career. Everything else is setting up stuff for maybe after fighting, but that's the same reason I never like, you know, other than, and also, you know, being a broke fighter for most of my career, but never had like a gym or something, you know, it does take away sometimes. So, yeah, just picking some things that don't take away from fighting, but it's just training all year long. That's, you know, I'd rather make less money and have a better fight career because I only get one crack at this. So yeah, I'm just trying to climb the ranks and keep going on, you know, and, it's been working so far. It's been great. We had one hiccup in the UFC, but, even that was a blessing in disguise. So yeah, just see what's next.
I love it, man. Well, listen, man, you look fantastic. I guess go heal up that shin, get ready for the birth. We know how much of a headache it is to promote events, so good luck with all that. And we definitely look forward to seeing what's next for you, man. And you know, appreciate the CFFC plug there as well, man. We always like to work those.
Yeah, I'm trying to get in that commentary booth with you and CM Punk, bro. I see they'll bring guys in. And I'm like, he was good, but he was more of a personality. I could be better spoken than that. I'm telling you, I want to be like, Rob Haydack, get me in there, man. But yeah, man, I'm excited. I'm excited for all of it. And I love CFFC. Man, that CFFC prepared me for the UFC more than anything. Is having those cameras in your face, the interview. It used to feel like a mini UFC, but now at the Apex, it feels bigger than the UFC sometimes. So a huge shout out to CFFC. I wouldn't be here without them.
I love that. I love that. Joe, you're a good man. You're a good man. Best of luck with your promotion. Best of luck with the next fight, the family, all that. And just look forward to seeing what's next, man.
John, appreciate you, man. Thanks so much. Take care.